Welcome, everybody, to the Wholesaling Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Brent Daniels, and if this is your first time listening, welcome. This podcast is absolutely going to blow your mind. Not only are we going to give you some motivation, some inspiration, but more importantly, some instruction on exactly how to go out and make an impact in your real estate community. So, it is just absolutely phenomenal. I want to talk about three little words. First one is profit. Second one is time. Third one is freedom, okay? And I'm not going to just talk about that, but I'm going to interview an amazing couple out of Phoenix, Arizona that are going to break down exactly how they grew their business so that they can raise a young family, have the time to be there and be involved, and build up their real estate portfolio. So with that, it is my pleasure to introduce Recia and Drew Davis. Say hello, guys.
Hello.
Hey, Brent.
Nice to meet you.
All right, good.
Nice to get such a great intro. Thank you.
Well, it's exciting. So Drew and I we've done a interview before. I think we've gotten like 6, 7, 8,000 views on
Pretty well
YouTube.
received.
You know, you brought a lot of value to that interview, but really, you're the lesser half.
Truth be told.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Recia, so tell me about your real estate journey. Tell me how you got into this. Tell me your background. Tell me how, you know, this whole thing works, because it is a challenge. I think with any, not only just with spouses, but with partners in general, sometimes it can be really difficult to juggle the relationship and the business. So kind of give me your background and kind of how you guys work together.
Sure, absolutely. So back in 2009, we had been dating for a long time, and it was time to take the next step, right? But I had just moved into his house. And then that's when I realized, like, wow, I'm living in his house. And I'm very strong. I'm very independent. I am, like, competitive. And so I thought, wow, he bought his first house after he turned 25. And at the time I was 24. And I was like, I need to buy my own house, and you can come live with me so that I have the last word if something were to come down to it.
Yeah.
Right? So that was where the beginning of the real estate journey began, because then we had to figure out what to do with his house. And, you know, the market's crashing. We had no idea what was going on. We ended up trying to rent it. That was a nightmare. And then we went through Rich Dad Education. We spent buckets of money with them, but got really good information. We really bought into the dream of financial freedom and of lifestyle design and all of that. And at the time, I was working a job that had turned into a career on accident. Like, Drew tells his story about, like, he grew up knowing that you go and work for somebody for 30 years and then you retire and life goes on. That's what you do.
Yeah.
But I must have missed that lesson.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. I didn't know any of that. And I just knew that I wanted to be super rich and like have this amazing life. And then I ended up just falling into a job that I was really good at. And I was there for, 8 years or something. And I moved up the ladder really fast, but it was like I hated it. I hated every second. I worked in clinical research.
Okay.
So it's a very science-based industry, very detail-based industry. It's something that it was just not my wheelhouse. But once we got into the real estate side, I started seeing, passive income. This is like the ticket.
Yeah.
You know, and so we started buying rentals, but that was too slow for me. And I'm also very impatient when I want something. And so a couple years go by, we have our first baby, and I'm like, I need to find a way to get out of my job. I had to get out of my job.
And real quick, so how did you even get to the Rich Dad education? Did you read the book? Did you was somebody like, hey, here's a pamphlet as you're walking through the mall or something?
Right.
Like what?
So Drew tells me it was all banner ads on Yahoo. So
The beginning of online marketing.
Yeah.
It was like I logged out of Yahoo and there was Rich Dad. I'm like, I know that guy. And in the ether, I'd been putting out, like, I need to figure out how to be a landlord. And then there's a free seminar on real estate. How lucky am I? Right in my backyard. Gotta be there. It's free.
It's free.
Yeah. So
The
exactly.
hook.
Oh, it was a
Get
great
you
hook.
in the door. And that's all it took for us.
Yeah.
I mean, we were sold.
Yeah.
We were absolutely
Never seen
sold.
anything like that before.
Yeah.
It was like, what? The sky is the earth is round, you know? I mean, just kind of like, people fish in the ocean and not in the desert. Like, that is such an amazing concept.
Yeah.
You know, we've all been hoodwinked, bamboozled. You
Yeah.
know? I mean, this is the new way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we caught the bug. And
Yeah. And then, you know, fast forward, we had Spencer. He's our first. He's our oldest. He's 6 years old now. And I was just like, I need to speed this up. And buying rentals, we didn't understand hard money really. Like, we knew it was out there, but we couldn't understand how you could cash flow with 12%, because the whole time I didn't realize it was interest only. I thought it was amortized at 12%, and there's no way you're cash flowing at amortized 12%.
Right.
talk about being new, just the basics
Sure.
of the numbers.
Right.
We
Sure.
didn't know.
So then I was at work one day, and Drew and I are talking on the phone as I was leaving work, and I had an hour-long commute, and I'm coming home, and I was just hoping that he forgot that it was the night of the Phoenix Real Estate Club meeting. I was hoping he forgot, and he didn't forget.
Nope.
And he's like, hey, we have to go. And he's like, but I'm with the baby, and so you have to go. And I was just like, putting me in a networking environment when I was brand new was like, I'm hot just even thinking about,
Yeah.
you know, how I felt that moment. But I went because of the, like, I'm strong, I'm independent, I can do this. I don't need you to be there with me, I can handle it. And I showed up, and that's when Dan Valentine Senior was there. And he stood up and he said, hey, I'm teaching people how to find houses and wholesale them, and I'll be your buyer. And so I went up to Dan and I'm like, I'm your girl. I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And from then that was it.
That was it.
That was it.
So then you guys, so when you go home and you talk to Drew, you're like, hey, listen.
Oh, yeah.
I've got the path.
Oh, yeah.
This is because this is the first part of this conversation, is the profit part, right? So when we're starting out this business, to get a lot of people start as this is your part-time gig, or this is your side gig, or this is your weekend, or if something happens, you've got money saved up to where you can buy a rental, or you can do a fix and flip, or whatever. But then all of a sudden life changes, or you change, your mind changes, something happens that you're like, I don't want to work a 9 to 5. I want to do this real estate thing.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you need to be able to replace your income.
Yep.
That's where the profit starts.
Yeah.
Right? Because it is very difficult when people start out. People think that, oh, if I got to get into real estate, then I need to buy these things over years and years and years and years until I can replace my income from passive cash flow. It's going to take forever.
Yes. That was how I was
Forever.
feeling.
That's the beauty of wholesaling.
Right.
That is the beauty. You can do some fix and flipping, but even that's slower.
Yep.
Wholesaling, 2 weeks your life could change.
Yeah.
Whoa,
A month your
okay.
life can change, right?
This is real.
So tell me about it. So you've got a cash buyer.
Yeah.
You've got this passion and hunger.
Yeah.
You've got a plan to go out and find distressed property owners, right? What'd you do?
So I come home that night, and there are two types of people. And we are two very similar, but also very different types of people.
Right.
And so there's people that like to toe dip and like to just make sure the water feels good before they get in.
Of course.
Make sure the island is sustainable before there's no way off the island. And then there's other people like me where it's like, burn the boats. I believe there's an island. We'll make it work.
We got it.
We'll make it work.
Yeah.
So I came home that night, and I think it was that night where I was like, where we agreed that I could leave my job. And I was like, you have to believe in me because I believe in me. Like, you just have to trust me. Like, that is all I'm asking, is you trust me. And the worst thing that can happen is I go back and get another job in 6 months.
Yep.
Because I already disliked my job anyway, so I would, let's go look somewhere else.
Yeah.
So he agreed.
Reluctantly.
Yeah.
Sure.
But we've been drinking a little bit of the Kool-Aid for a few years, so we
Yeah.
saw that, like, well, maybe we
Yeah.
can make this happen. And I knew how, it's like, if Mama ain't happy,
No,
you ain't
no.
happy. So
Yeah,
we
she got
into
that.
misery regardless.
She's got that look in her eye, that fire in her eyes.
Yes,
You're
you,
not
you
stopping.
see the flames
Yeah, yeah.
around the hair, right? Like, give it a chance,
Yeah.
because the worst case,
Yeah.
we can get another job.
Yep.
Right.
Got it.
Right. And so then I went into Dan's class, and I told him, I'm Recia Davis. I'm going to wholesale full-time. This is going to replace my income. And I quit my job. And he's like, get your butt back there and go get your job back.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's not how you do it.
Yeah.
But I told him, no, you trust me. And sure enough, I became the star of his class because it was just like an accountability group. And he was giving me, like, he was hand feeding us information of exactly what to do. And it's like, Drew says this all the time, everything works, nothing doesn't. And that's what it was.
Yep.
And so, it took me 6 weeks, full-time effort in order to get my first deal.
Doing what?
So
What's the efforts that you were doing?
Okay, so I was at the time printing out reports from Property Radar. And it would show, like, sometimes have the phone number, but it would also have the mailing address of the homeowner. And so I would be mailing letters, and I would be cold calling. And then 6 weeks goes by, and or like maybe 4 weeks had gone by, and I had a picture printed and put in our bedroom, and it said, "Today I will do what others won't, so tomorrow I can have what others can't."
Love it.
Right? And so I kept seeing this, and Dan had told me one day, he's like, if you want a deal, you just have to go find the deal. Like, you can't tell me that there's not deals in Phoenix. Like, you just have to find it. And so it was a Friday, and I woke up, and I was like, I'm going to go find a deal today. And so I went driving for dollars and door knocking, and I just door knocked neighborhood after neighborhood after neighborhood.
Were you going to specific doors?
Oh,
like the ugliest houses,
no.
or were they on your, like a pre-foreclosure?
There
just
was
any house?
I was just going.
Shotgun.
I was just going. Completely shotgunning.
Yeah.
Just.
And you're like, what are you doing by yourself?
Oh, yeah.
What neighborhood?
Yeah.
And at the time, that's what they did. At the time, you did it alone.
Oh, yeah.
You did it alone.
Yep.
There was no, like, camaraderie of, like, 5 people going door knocking and, like, blanketing. Oh, no. You just go and do it alone.
Wholesalers didn't team up. It was a competition.
Yeah.
Like, there's not enough out there for everybody.
Right.
And then some.
Right. And so I would go, and I would just tell Drew, I'm in this neighborhood. Like, I'll call you as soon as I leave this neighborhood, and if it's X amount of time, then call me.
Yeah.
And then I was coming home that day. It was Friday. It was 4 o'clock, and I was like, all right, well, I'm going home. I didn't find it. Maybe tomorrow. And then I was like, let me hit one more neighborhood. And then I turned into this neighborhood that's close to Drew's parents' house. It was a neighborhood that we'd been looking at buying in. And so I knew the numbers really well.
Sure.
I knew what houses went for. And at the time, if you could get a house for $100 a foot, it was a good deal. You could move it.
Yeah.
And so I go in this neighborhood, I knock on this door, and it just so happens to be an older guy that had just moved his dad into hospice or into, like, nursing home and needed to sell a house. And it was like looking at me like I was a godsend because his sisters were coming in town and he didn't want to deal with his sisters.
Of course.
Like, figuring out how to sell this house.
Yeah.
And so at the time, I said, how big is this house? He said 2,100 square feet. I told him I'm probably at about 200. And then he started at 240. And by the time that I got to Drew's parents' house after this conversation, we had it locked up at 210, I think. So I was right on my money. And then made a phone call, got it sold.
To Steve?
No.
Oh.
No. Got it sold to somebody else. In 5 days, we closed, and it was the first deal that closed. So I had two other deals at the time that closed right after it, but I had been working them first.
Yep.
Right? And so it really is like you can go out and you can find a deal and you can make that happen, and that can be something that closes faster than whatever you have in escrow.
Awesome.
So
Incredible.
it was awesome.
And what'd you make?
I made 10 on that one.
10,000.
It was
Alejandra,
awesome.
can you bring me that bell? I'm sorry. I thought I need to get the bell and ring that bell. But
So
$10,000.
it was awesome.
Oh
It
my
was
gosh.
awesome.
Incredible.
And then that happens to be the neighborhood we live in now. So we drive by that house every single day.
Friendly reminder.
And it's just,
anything's possible.
yeah,
That's incredible.
it's wonderful.
Well, and now, so obviously that took you from believing that you can do it to it being a fact.
Right.
Now you're on
fire.
Now
Right.
you're just crazy woman.
Yep.
You're just going,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And going and going
Oh,
and
yeah.
going. But you guys found an interesting niche that I'd like to talk about because it's something that doesn't get talked about a lot, which is tax liens.
Yeah.
Property tax liens.
Yeah.
So what is a property tax lien?
I'll summarize by keeping it simple and saying, look, everybody's got to pay their taxes, right?
Right.
And that even comes down to the properties. And so depending on where you live, you don't pay your taxes, they'll put a lien on the property. And so that's going to encumber the property, if you want to sell it, right? And so, the counties all run off of tax dollars. So if you're not paying your property taxes, the counties are starving, right?
Yeah.
They don't have any income. So essentially what they have to do is put their thinking cap on and say, how do we get these taxes paid so we have income? So we'll say, all right, there's value in this lien that we put. We'll auction it off to investors at a preferred, interest rate. estate, and there's a variety of different ways they can do that. We'll auction it off, and then the winner, they now are essentially the tax lien owner on that property with a predictable, certain, safe, return on that money that's backed by the government.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like old and boring, but it's a niche that if you would take the time to learn more about it, and liens and deeds and some of the world of the weird, that it's there's some nuggets hidden in them that
There's
are
a
hills.
lot.
So where do you find these liens? These with the county treasurer?
Right.
Right?
They got auctions every year.
Every year.
So in Phoenix, they're in February. We got introduced to this strategy a while back because this is a longer term strategy. It's a longer play. And so you buy the tax lien certificate in February, and then you wait for it, and then you can foreclose on it if that property owner does not pay their back taxes.
Yeah.
So
it's like if you combine all the other stuff you know about real estate, you possibly find a distressed property, and they're auctioning off a lien on it.
So are you guys looking at do you get a list beforehand of addresses that are going to the tax lien
Yes.
auction?
all that stuff gets put
and,
public.
and then you look through those, and you cherry pick the ones that you want to go after?
Well, absolutely. So there's
zip codes, areas.
Yeah,
so
go ahead.
there are.
I'll get excited. I'm stepping on your toes.
That's
Go
okay.
ahead.
So there's definitely some gotchas if you are investing in tax liens, whether it's tax liens or tax deeds. So this happens across the country. Every county has a way to collect back taxes from investors if the homeowners are not paying them.
Yeah.
But you have to check with your specific county to understand the rules. Here in Arizona, you get the list ahead of time, and you want to make sure that you're buying a tax lien on a property that's worth something.
Got it.
So there are so many tax liens being auctioned off on properties that have a value of like $500. And then if you
What kind of properties are these? What properties are $500?
I mean, like sidewalks, like a little piece
strips
of
and
sidewalks.
scraps.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly
And
right.
people that privately own those?
Right, right.
And they just forget to pay
And
their
then they
tax.
just decide not to pay their taxes because there's no necessarily any value on the property itself. And so if they stop paying their taxes, then the taxes start acquiring, right? And so now all of a sudden, as a tax lien certificate buyer, you got to make sure that you're buying something that's worth way more than the taxes owed.
Yep.
So if there's taxes that are owed of like, let's say $5,000, but the value of the property is only $500, why would you invest in that? You never would, because that value, there's no value there.
So you look for
have to
it.
do
Does
your
it?
education.
Does it come? Does this list? And listen, this is going to be different in different areas, different states, different counties, different everything. But when you're looking at it, what is your first thing that you filter? Do you filter by area? Do you filter by? Is there a code that's like this is a house, this is land, this is commercial, this is because it's all. Listen, there's property taxes on everything.
Right.
If it's privately owned, there's there's property taxes.
Exactly
on it.
right.
So it could be this building, a house, a condo, any of that, right? A sidewalk,
Parking
apparently.
lot,
Yeah. Parking lots.
Parking lots, yep.
Yeah.
And community areas. We have found a lot of developments where the community area in the development is not paid for.
Yeah.
So you have to decide what you're going to do with that land.
Yeah.
For Drew and I, we like to look at value first. There's ways to filter it. Luckily in Arizona, in Maricopa County specifically, we're just so fortunate here. Arizona's awesome. The amount of education that they give on the treasurer's website is incredible. They walk you through the steps of how to get your bidder number, how to buy, what to look out for. But at the end of the day, it comes down to how much dollars do you have to invest, because you have to be willing to pony up and pay if you're going to win the auction.
Yeah.
So
And the auction is not the amount of taxes owed on it. The auction is the amount of interest that you get on that, right?
Yeah, so we're in a bid down county where basically it's what's the least will you take, right?
Right.
And then the winner's the lowest bid on that interest rate.
So do you guys even care about the interest rate?
Sometimes
Because you want the property,
we
right?
want the property.
But it takes
We
years
absolutely
before
want
you can
property.
foreclose,
Right. So you want to have your money tied up, and this is our preference. If our money is going to be tied up, it needs to be earning something, because the chance of you getting a property through foreclosure from a tax lien certificate is small.
Small.
It's very small. So you
Yeah.
need to make sure it's worth it for your time. So we make sure that we get some interest on it. But yeah, obviously our goal, because we're in the real estate space and that's like what we do, we want the properties.
So is there a percentage you won't go below?
It depends on the property.
Yeah, we got to. Yeah, so
So
it's like a little bit of a formula, but everyone's going to be unique. Some people might just say whatever it is, I just want to get the property,
Yep.
and they don't care about the value.
Yep.
So it's like you want that small 8-foot triangular slab of leftover concrete near the back gate of the alley. Like you own that now.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
So sometimes people are just so thirsty to buy something they don't even
They
think
don't know.
like.
Right.
And there's other codes that tell you if it's coded like this, it's this part of town,
Yeah.
or that part of town. So you can have your own little setup to
Cool.
say, do you want West Side or Scottsdale? It's
Yeah.
all in the code.
Oh, yeah.
You just gotta
Yeah.
know what
Know
you're
the
looking
code.
for. Know the
Love
code. Yeah. So
Love
it's
it.
pretty slick. You
It's
can.
awesome.
The info's just abundantly.
But
there.
you guys do get some properties that way.
we do.
Yeah.
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 We do.
And then those are big deals.
Yeah.
They tend to be rather large.
Yeah.
So.
But it's a patient game.
It is. You
Yeah.
have to. You have
This
to be
isn't
patient,
you.
and it's not.
This isn't you going after your first year door knocking.
No.
This is that time factor that we're
Right.
talking about: profit and time and freedom. So really, getting back to it with your guys' time, it's really interesting because you guys have three kids
6, 4, and 0.
and 0, right? Yeah, months old,
Right,
right?
yes.
So how do you guys balance that and be proactive and work so that your business is still thriving? You're still getting the profit side, but you have the time to devote to the family.
Well, when I got started, it was about like as big as I can get. It was
Yep.
like, how can I get as big as I can get? And it was all about dollars. It was all about being a boss. It was all about this like stature, right? Mm-hmm. And that was awesome, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And then we had our second baby, and it was about 2 years in. We were making great money, but 2 years in, all of a sudden, I was in like a pretty dark space. Like, I don't think I recognized it at the point, but I could feel like life just kind of sucked.
Got it.
And it was like the business was great, but I felt like, what am I doing this for? And
Interesting.
everything kind of hit me at once, and I wasn't taking care of myself physically. Like, we're eating like crap, like it was garbage. We just put everything on the back burner that wasn't our business.
Grinding too hard.
That's right. And we weren't taking care of what actually matters.
Yeah.
And so then all of a sudden, the food was the first thing for us, and for me specifically. And all of a sudden I had this brain fog clear. And I had no idea that brain fogs even existed. But I had this brain fog clear. And I realized, like, what is it that I actually want? Mm-hmm. What is it that I want? And then I started, like, designing that. And it, like, all of a sudden things started happening. So Drew and I call it life hacks. Mm-hmm. It's finding ways to hack your life so that you can live the life of your dreams now without waiting for this, like, not clear destination.
Got it.
Yeah.
And
Well, everybody, it's $1 million, it's $10
Right.
million, it's
Then you
$15
get there
million,
and you're-
it's $20,000 a month in passive income, it's
Right.
$30,000 a month in passive, it's $5, you know what I mean? And
Right.
it's like, okay, you get there and it's not what you think it is.
Right.
Yeah.
If you always are wanting more, when you get to what you define as more, you're going to continue to want more.
Right.
And so that's when I put the brakes on. I was like, hold on. Instead of trying to scale up,
Yep.
because we can scale up, but then it comes with way more overhead, way more challenge, way more like time consumption. And I feel like we're just completely disregarding the two humans at the time that matter the most to us. And so then, okay, how can we be more profitable, smaller, and not without a lot of the overhead?
Yeah.
And I can go and do this business. You can go and do this business. Like, we can make a lot of money in real estate, no problem, and we don't have to have this huge scale up. And so that's when that was like the moment where we started just defining what we wanted and designing it. And we just keep hacking and keep hacking and keep hacking.
So and by the way, you have a phenomenal social media presence. You're on there, you're inspiring. What's the best way to people to find you on social media?
So finding us is on Facebook.
Okay.
It's Recia Drew Davis. So my name's hard to spell, but Recia Drew Davis.
Got it.
Yep.
Yeah, perfect. Guys, definitely follow her. It's incredible. Do you think is it for everybody? Who would you say would benefit from that?
Everybody.
Okay.
So everybody. It's not only real estate focused.
Yeah.
Actually, quite a bit of it is not real estate focused because we can teach you the tactical things. We can, there are so many resources out there that can teach you the tactics and the strategies. For us, it's about strategizing your life and how to design that and like what are some hacks.
Yep. Love it.
Yeah.
Can you give me an example of a hack? Can you give me, Drew, like give us something that's like a life, because you're talking about life hacks, right?
Yeah.
You're not just talking about this is how you go and lead generate a deal,
No.
right? You're talking about how do you put the most, the interesting thing, and I've been talking about this and I keep pounding it and pounding it and pounding it, is I think that passion is fantastic, but purpose is way bigger.
Oh, yeah.
Purpose is the foundation. Passion is that fiery look in your eyes. And that passion died out at some point. Maybe it's because you were going in the diet and everything else. But what is the purpose? The purpose is what we're here for. The purpose is what really makes us happy, that really fulfills us for like our lives.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily going to be having the biggest real estate company, have the biggest real estate holdings, being the boss, these type of things. So
Yeah. I would say one of the biggest one, and again, to how it drives it, is like this is such a small piece of our relationship with our kids when they're young and most influential. We can't grind so hard through that we finally get there, as you were just saying, that we like missed it and they're off into other stuff and misguided. But one of them is, just the simple thing, like we want to be able to choose things like, do we want to go to Target or the grocery store with them or not? Because sometimes that can be a fun family trip. Other times in just the weekly stuff, it's, no, that's an hour, the kids acting up all
it's a
crazy.
nightmare.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare.
But there's hacks out there. There's grocery delivery services.
Yes.
If you guys aren't familiar in the Phoenix area, there's something called ClickList, where it's basically you order online for your groceries. They tell you to be ready in a couple hours. You pull up, and I think they charge you $5. Pop the trunk, they load you up, off you roll, and out of there.
Yep.
No more hours of serpentining. You know how much time you lose just wandering the grocery store, no list, no plan,
Love it.
and hungry?
Love it.
Buy a bunch of ice cream sandwiches and Doritos and like, oh, what's for dinner?
Yeah.
And just take some of that out, because when you got 3 hungry boys at home, you can be hitting the grocery store like every other day.
All the time.
Yeah.
Little time sucks like that. That's probably one of them. And, not being afraid to say, are there, other services, like bringing someone in the home to maybe grandma could do some couple hours of helping out around the house. Maybe you've got a friend of the family that might be willing to chip in at a small fee. Little things like that can just offload the biggest time sucks. So if you want to repurpose that time into your business, great. If you want to make sure that you're given the right investment into that family time for QT, you're doing that as well. So you open some of that up to because everybody gets the same 24. So you just got to shift and take from some of the other areas to make sure you're getting the highest, best use of your time. And that's not just in the boardroom, but it's at the dinner table as well.
Yeah, love it. And I think it's important that when you do have all those things scheduled, or you do free up your schedule, that you know the times that you can actually work.
Right.
You can put on that real estate investor hat, that real estate wholesaler hat, and go to town, right?
Absolutely.
And it's, sometimes it depends if you're working from house or an office or whatever else, different distractions here and there, but you can stay laser focused. And I think it makes you more efficient, because I think when people have way too much time, all of a sudden creative avoidance, all these things start coming in, all these
Rearrange
different.
my sock drawer today.
Yeah, I got to do something out there. I've got to. Yeah, right.
That seems really important.
I gotta
that lead, that motivated seller, they can wait. As soon as I get these socks,
I'll call them after
up.
lunch. I'll call them after 2. I'll call them after 5, and then it doesn't happen, right? But if
they're
you're
not picking up my calls,
if
they're
you're-
not motivated.
if you're like, I got to call them here, I got to call them here, and here, and I got to make sure that the schedule's organized and everything. Boom, because you guys work from home.
We do.
Right.
We do.
And that's important for you because, one, you get to be around the boys all the time. I mean, obviously they have school and some other things like that, but you're around them all the time.
Yep.
And that's a blessing.
It is.
Yeah.
And that's because you don't work the 9 to 5, because you got brave and you got passionate and you got the purpose of, I need to not be average.
Right.
I do not want to be 9 to 5. I don't want to be financially just paying into somebody else, building up their company. I want to actually go out and use my talent, skills, efforts.
Right.
And now you guys have a good real estate portfolio?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We do.
Is that in Phoenix? How does that look?
Yeah, so our cash flow
mostly all
properties
in
are
Phoenix.
all in the Phoenix area.
Mm-hmm.
We stretch some of the West Valley down
Yeah.
to Cass Grant, that sort
Yeah.
of thing. But yeah, in the Phoenix area. And but that's that's just right now. The funny part about it is as we start to learn more and do more creative things and get exposed to different strategies, because certain things it's real easy to take that knowledge and put it in a different market. And so that's sometimes open
Especially
up
some of that
opportunities
tax
to
lien.
evaluate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we've traveled and done some things out of state as well.
Mm-hmm. Incredible. You guys are incredible. This is awesome. This is perfect. Well, thank you guys. Is there give some advice each of you guys on usually people say to get your first deal, for lead generation, to help somebody getting into this business. Give me some advice that you would give on working with a partner.
One of the things I would say that comes to mind first is one, we're fortunate in that we kind of took the sip of the Kool-Aid together.
Yeah.
Most couples we run across that have said kind things about your couple that hasn't killed each other is that they either saw it at different times and didn't have that same, indoctrination sequence.
Yep.
Or one person's just completely opposed. It's going to be a different road to hoe, but I think you can still get through some of those with the right setup. But for us working together, I think it's one being patient and understanding with each other, knowing that we're partners in life, and love first. The business is another benefactor, something great that we create together. But trying to define roles and understanding strengths and weaknesses. Understanding that, okay, I'm gonna, as the father in the rock, I am gonna have some focus on sustainability and stability, but at the same time, I want her free to be able to flap those wings and kick up dust and make some things happen. And we'll combine our yin and yang in the right way that's going to make this thing happen. And as long as you stay focused and unified in love and keep those love tanks full, the rest, no success can compensate for failure in the home.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
That is
Wow, look at that. Yeah.
Thank you.
great job. Great job. I don't even know how to follow that up.
Boom.
Yeah, perfect. No, that's really great. I absolutely an inspiration. You guys are amazing. And for anybody out there listening, or if you want to watch this interview, check it out at Brent Daniels Real Estate on YouTube. Definitely check it out. It's definitely worth the watch. If you're interested in joining the most proactive group in real estate investing, you got to go to wholesalinginc.com/TTP. Wholesalinginc.com/TTP. Check out what the TTP program is about. Scroll down. Check out all the testimonials. Check out what the program's about. If it feels good in your gut, sign up for a call. I look forward to working with you personally. I love you guys all. And as always, I encourage you to talk to people. See ya.